myself and my colleague here, Aisha, we work for victim support. Before I even go on, how many of us have heard about victim support before? Raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. How many of us know what victim support does?
Support victims.
As the name says, support victims. Yes, we support victims of crime. So victim support is the largest is a charity. Okay, that's first and foremost. Victim support is a charity. Victim support is not part of the police. We work with the police. We are partners with the police, but we're not part of the police. We don't work for the police. So victim support is a charity. It's the single largest charity in England and Wales that works with victims of crime. Works with and worked on behalf of victims of crime. So if you've been a victim of any crime, burglary, theft, muggings, violence, attacks, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, child abuse, we will support you.
How about scam?
Even scams, cybercrime. Yes, we have specially trained members of staff and volunteers who work with victims of cybercrime.
Yes.
We will support you regardless of whether you want to report or you have reported the crime or the matter to the police. Even if you don't want to, because we understand not everybody who's a victim of crime wants to report the crime to the police. We will support you. We will also support you, and we will not force you or cajole you or make you report the matter to the police. Okay? Now, let me ask another question. How many of us here have been victims of crime before? Have you ever been a victim of a crime? Yes or no? Yeah? No.
Yes.
You have? Cool. How many of us have been told, go back to your country, you don't belong here? Show of hands.
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, I've been told that.
You've been told that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Cool. In Blackpool?
Yeah.
There you go. How many of us have been called Paki?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Pakistan.
Pakistani. So Paki.
Paki.
Yeah?
Yes.
How many of us have been called nigger? Yeah? How many of us have been told, why are you wearing a headscarf? Why are you covering your hair? What are you hiding?
Hey.
Yeah? How many of us have been told, why are you so dark? Your skin is dirty. Go back. Why you not speak English? Right? Guess what? You've all been victims of crime.
What? I don't know how that goes.
You've all been victims of crime.
How do you know?
Because it's a crime. That is a crime.
But what happens when I'm not?
That is like a racist.
It is racist. So if anybody tells you, go back to your country,
No one said that.
remove your scarf, that is a crime. And that is the reality. So yes, a lot of us have been victims of crime. Unfortunately, we know that a lot of people are not aware that they are victims of crime, and these things is a crime, or these are incidents of hate crime, and that's what we do. We support you regardless of. We support you if you've been a victim of a crime. Victim support has been in existence for the last 40 years. And part of the things we do is what I'm doing right now. Talk to you guys, make you guys aware of crime. What else we do is to talk to you guys, you know the way Yusuf talked about your rights? From the perspective of stop and search. We talk to you about your rights from the perspective of being a victim of a crime. For those of us who are victims of a crime, did we report it? Yes or no? No. Okay. And we understand why. We know that some people will not report a crime to the police because of what they don't expect to be. They don't think they'll be supported or believed, or they think that they've had a bad experience with the police before. But we also know that there are people who are being victims of crime who do not want to report it because of who the perpetrator of the crime is. Well, according to the law, according to the Victims Code of Practice, if you've been a victim of a crime, you have a right to report it to the police. You also have a right to have the crime investigated. It is your right to have a police officer put in charge of your case. Lots of people don't know that. You have a right to have a statement taken. If none of these rights are followed, the police can be or are in trouble, can be put in trouble because of that. It is your right to have an interpreter present. So if English is not your first language, or if you're not fluent in English, they should provide an interpreter in your language to communicate with you. And not just communicate with you, but communicate with you to ensure that you understand. Make sense? Questions so far?
What happens to the police? Like you said, they'll be in trouble. What happens to them?
You can bring a case against them to the IOPC, independent officers for police complaints. IOPC, you
Can I
can.
ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, when you say victim support, but the statistics, it's like people report these things, but you don't take any action.
That's the police.
Yeah, the statistics are so high, especially for women and girls as well,
Yeah.
and you don't even do anything about it. So I don't know.
So the police don't do anything. So when you report the matter to the police,
You support victims, but you don't take action, isn't it? You just give them the support that they need.
yes, we're not the police, so it's not my job to take action.
So that's why many people don't really
Which
support
them?
them, because at the end
Sure.
of the day, they don't get the right.
Very true. Very, very true. Again, unfortunately, our hands, as an organization, as a charity, like I said, our hands are tied. There's only so much we can do.
Advocate and do more.
We do also have to, and that's what Aisha here does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know on the news when it says the family is being supported by specialist officers, like when
Yep.
someone's been murdered or something,
Mhm.
who helps them then? Is it victim support?
So the specialist officers are police officers who are trained to support victims of, so what we call victims of homicide, or families who have lost people due to homicide.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, they would refer these specialist officers who are police officers will also refer those families to victim support. So in victim support, we have a specially trained team we call the homicide service, who support victims or families or people who have been bereaved by homicide.
So victim support them as well, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we do. We also provide support to people who have been victims of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, and all of that. We have specialist teams who support young people from 16 and below, children and vulnerable adults. We have specialist teams who support, like I said earlier, people who have been victims of fraud and cybercrime and forgery. We have specialist teams who work with people from minority communities. So black communities like Aisha, who is... Let me leave Aisha tell you what she does.
Hello everyone, I'm better show an accent. That's as far as my Somali goes, so I'll speak in English. So yeah, my name's Aisha Noor, and I'm an independent domestic violence advocate for the black and ethnic minority community, because we can all agree that our issues is not the same as others, correct? So yeah, I'll get into that a little bit later, but before joining victim support, I was in teaching, because growing up Somali, our Bon Hoy will be like, you can do two things as a woman, be a nurse or be a teacher. So I became a teacher. Didn't work out for me because I found that I was more into the social side of things, so social issues that people are going through. So I found myself working for a homeless charity, which is very different to this, but quite similar actually in some areas. And it was in that role that I realised that domestic abuse and housing is actually very close together. And so then I moved to domestic abuse through that role. So my role as an IDVA, that's Independent Domestic Violence Advocate, I didn't find it automatically. I had to stumble across it, do a few things, and then get here, which is why I'm speaking to you guys today in this community outreach event, because ideally it would be nice to have people interested in our role. I've come into this role, I'm actually one of, only two of us, right? Two Somali girls, which is abysmal. We need more people working for the charity. So yeah, actually the Somali community is a very hard to reach community, and when I'm given cases, so usually we get referrals from the Metropolitan Police, and I'll make contact on that first day with the victim, and just before I begin actually with that kind of the actual work that I do, there's two misconceptions. Does anyone know what domestic abuse actually is? Is it always violent, domestic abuse?
Emotional.
Yeah, it could be emotional, exactly.
Not just physical, it could be based on your monetary, how money and things like that.
Exactly, yeah. Does anyone else know what else? Economic, it could be coercive, it could be emotional abuse, it could be psychological. And does domestic abuse only happen to women? No, yeah, that's the biggest misconception. And there's no ebb in it, it can also happen to men as well. Yeah, so we also support men and women in our service. So yeah, we get referrals from the police, and we make contact in 48 hours. Usually, when I get a Somali case, because obviously I'm the only Somali IDVA working, the first thing they're like is, oh no, we don't need any support. Who are you? You work with the police? No, I'm good. We don't need enough support. And as soon as I speak Somali, it's, oh, actually, you know what? I actually do need support. That kind of tells me a lot about how. Yeah, go on.
Do you get self-referrals as well?
We do get self-referrals, yeah. So because I'm a specialist team that does Black and ethnic minority communities, it's in-house for us, it's internal. So someone else will get the referral and they'll pass it on to us. But yeah, we do self-referrals, we do, yeah, on the website.
When Aisha finishes, I will tell you how to refer into victims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understanding thing.
And chances are, even if this information is not valuable to you, you probably will know someone that actually will need this information. So yeah, with the Black and ethnic minority community, we do honour-based violence, down to modern slavery, forced marriage, female genital mutilation, and the list honestly does go on, unfortunately. But yeah, that interaction that I had with that Somali woman over the phone, it told me a lot. I needed to know that there's actually no trust in the Somali community with services. And honestly, being in this role, I want to bridge that gap. So yeah, I wanted to make it my mission to bridge that gap. But honestly, I can't do it alone, so I encourage people to apply, men and women. Yeah, so I want to get into the type of support that we do, that I do. As soon as we make contact with the victim survivor, we do an assessment. An assessment is about 24 questions just to kind of gauge what the risk is and what exactly the person does need. And then we do an individualized safety support plan with you. It is completely individual to you, what you need in areas such as housing, legal support, because a lot of people don't know their rights or entitlements, and actually are intimidated by the criminal justice system. So we support you in that area. We can support you with pre-trial visits, so say if you're going to go to court, and advocacy with the police. So you were saying earlier, a lot of times, we do get the, what do you call it, the frustration and the backfall as well. I know that the police is obviously trying their best, but you know, it is frustrating to get cases where there's no trust at all for the criminal justice system. But that's where we come in to kind of relieve you from that situation. You know, after you've been through crime, the least thing you want to be doing is calling, trying to find out who the officer in charge of your case is, where your case is going, you know. So that's the type of advocacy we do with police. But we also work very closely with multiple agencies. If you are a victim of domestic abuse and you do have children, let's say you call the police, it's likely a referral was done, so social workers will be involved. Again, people are quite intimidated by social workers, so it's always nice to have someone, you know, kind of supporting you through that situation as well. And yeah, this job has been very fulfilling. I feel like I've been able to, obviously I can't do it alone because the sheer number of, you know, crime that's happening in London, but I've gotten a good reception so far, and I would encourage people to apply to it. It's a very good stepping stone to other areas that you want to get into as well within the criminal justice system too. But yeah, I'm very content and I'm constantly learning. If you have any questions, let me know.
You know what Yusuf said earlier. If you're not on the, if you're not sat at the table, you're on the menu.
Literally.
Same thing with, we noticed that within the criminal justice system, there are two types of people. There's the people who are going through the criminal justice system because they've been victims of crime, or they've been perpetrators, or they're criminals. And then you have other people on the other side of the table, the lawyers, the judges, people who are making the decisions. And unfortunately, you will see that there's huge difference ethnically in these types of people. On one side, you have the people from minority ethnic groups. On the other side, you have the whites, male, female, upper middle class people. For us, we want to change that. We need to have people who look like us cross over to the other side of the table. Yes, become police officers, become lawyers, become judges, join victim support. Because if you are not, so for instance, if you walk into a police station to report a crime, you have two people in front of you. One is Somali, one is white. Who would you be more comfortable talking to? You would? Or the Somali person? Yes, yeah. It would be the Somali person.
Yeah.
Or your background.
Or someone from your background.
Yeah.
If you want to report a matter to the police, or if you are a victim of a crime, or you need help from the criminal justice system, would you want to be supported by someone who speaks your language, or somebody who does not speak your language and does not understand where you're coming from?
Yeah, but the thing is, I think you need to feel comfortable with anybody.
Yes.
Because when you start that kind of, you know, that kind of thinking, like, I want somebody, like, it would seem you need to feel confident that I can speak with anybody.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's
Very true.
Can I give you an example? So actually, there was a social worker that I was working with, and it was a very vulnerable family where there was domestic abuse going on, and she was actually she's Muslim like me, but she was a hijabi and wearing the niqab as well. And the social worker was very, very concerned that she was actually forced to put on the hijab and wear the niqab when actually it was her choice. And I think she made that judgment because she's a victim of abuse and thought, well, she's probably wearing this hijab for, you know, because her husband told her to, because he's already abusing her in other areas of her life. He's probably told her to you know, cover up as well. And in fact, that wasn't the case. And these little instances, they're not going to know unless you have people from your background or from your religion.
Yeah, I can understand what that's saying. Like, we need to have that.
No, be empowered. I know what you mean. Yeah, exactly. And that comes through knowledge and you put yourself out there and learning and pushing yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's how it should be.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree.
And that's why we're here as well, to encourage young ones. Look to opportunities to get jobs within the criminal justice system. Look for opportunities to volunteer in your spare time.
Yes.
While you're waiting to go to university. When you're at university, when you're looking to do some placement work, student placement work, or what do we call them? Internships. The police, victim support, other agencies within the criminal justice system always provide such opportunities. And once you learn, once you get those opportunities, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. So I always encourage people to, be part of it. Be part of it.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think we're done. Yeah, we're done. Any questions from the audience?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course you can.
You spoke about the police and criminal evidence out there.
Yes.
I think it would be good to tell them which section is the stop and search one, and so at least people were asking about it.
Yeah.
Which section 75?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we won't go to. I'll kind of sort
So
of
that
cover it.
you-
So in terms of searches, if the police are searching for drugs and they stop you, there's something called the Section 23 of the Misuse of Drugs Act. So it's a section of this, and it's still reasonable grounds to suspect. So if they have reasonable grounds to suspect that you might be carrying drugs, okay, they search it under something called Section 23 of the Misuse Act. Okay, and they always use the acronym of Go Wisely, the grounds, objectives of the search. They've got the warrant card, they've given the identity, etc., etc. If they think that you might be carrying stolen property or weapons, they use something called Section 1. Okay, that's what they search you on. If you've been arrested and they believe, not just suspect, but they believe that you might have something that can endanger you or them, they can search something called under Section 32. If it's premises search, as in home search, you use it called Section 18 or a Section 17 PACE or a warrant from the magistrate's court, which is called a Section 8 warrant. And we can keep going. There's a firearms warrant. There's so many, but that's the main ones that they use. But all available online.
What was the question? You wanted to answer?
Describing a hard question.
Go ahead.
Like involving crime a lot.
Yeah.
So like crime in London is getting worse and better.
That's all. Yeah, it's depends. So things like so obviously like robberies sometimes it spikes. So in terms of if on your phone gets snapped, that spikes. Drug use, it spikes. But definitely the thing that's rising the most, cybercrime and fraud. That is not being reported sometimes, and the system can't even cope with it. That's a reality. And so being identity, for example, an identity theft, being a victim, well, if you see something online and they basically clone your credit card, etc., etc. So that's definitely rising. The other question is.
As a police officer and as victim support, do you not get traumatized by cases you deal with?
Oh, what a question. So I'll answer that. So in your lifetime, right? In your lifetime, please. In your lifetime, you're as the ordinary member of the public, you're likely to come across traumatic incidents 3 to 4 times in your lifetime.
What do you mean by traumatic incidents?
So this I can't answer that. So because what I find traumatic, you might not.
Like someone burning alive is traumatic.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's traumatic for everyone.
Yeah. So the point I'm trying to say is, but a little thing might trigger me because of my experience. So in your lifetime, on average, you're likely to come across 3 to 4, say 4 tragic incidents. Yes. What do you think the number is for a police officer?
10.
100.
10 a year.
3 to 4.
3 to 4 a week. They reckon between 4 and 106 incidents.
400?
4 to 600. Because of what you're dealing with.
Of your career or like?
Yeah. What you're dealing with. So of course, you come across a lot of challenging environments, okay? But I'm a living example that I've done 13 years, alhamdulillah, I'm saying. Yeah? So of course, there are challenges, but that shouldn't dissuade you. The reason why I say that is because I will tell you one thing. When you investigate a crime and it's victim-based, as my victims on sport will tell you, and it's victim-based, domestic abuse, robbery, and something can be violent, burglary, where someone's come to your personal, sterile, safe space and invaded it, okay? Sometimes you can never appreciate when something happens to someone unless it happens to you, okay? Because what you might find is that, oh, your car's been keyed or damaged, well, that's not a big deal. But imagine you've been saving to buy that car for 5 years, okay? Get every penny together, and then you buy a nice brand new car. Next morning when you wake up, it's been completely damaged. It'll break your heart, right? So when you investigate that crime, okay, and you bring the perpetrator to justice, there's no better feeling, I can honestly assure you, when that victim says to you, in their hour of need, and I've been there, when you do that, and you take the case to court, and you get a conviction, that night when you sleep, guess what happens? You sleep very well.
But when you feel like the justice system
سخاوة يا إخوان. نحريسي يا وندوز دائما فايدة وانتوا وانا يوحما. نحريسي يا وندوز دائما فايدة وانتوا وانا يوحما. فرزي تشيليلو كهما هما نكورو برنامج يا جما. فرزي تشيليلو كهما هما نكورو برنامج يا جما. تجشني فرواتنا الوان شبكرني فرواتنا الوان. تجشني فرواتنا الوان شبكرني فرواتنا الوان.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ndugu wapenzi wa Barawa Channel 1, dimina kikodero Habib Abu Sheikh na kuzoji sana wa Habib Chara. Isa leo chiko katika jale wanaamini chiko nandroa yetu Abu Bakar chiko takichambia sababu ya asichililo hapa na yasishfanyizo hapa na yasishisho hapa de takitishpo kilmaze na takuhaduma ina matatu inshallah. Abakari ndoa igema katika Barawa Channel 1 so mara hii ya kanda wala so hii mara ya pili. Kila mara maana jabu tuko kinu Barawa Channel 1 uko hegani tayari kuya kuodhera jabu zinu kuonyeza watu kazi yani shisho mashaallah. Katika wanaamini leo wako Londoni wasu khadru maana kwa dhukura katika lista number 1 ni community yenu. Ntako community kama hii taasisi kuona mashaallah kazi zani shisho leo takadira kwa iwisha wanaamini maana ijabu yasichililo hapa leo.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا حبيب برافو channel 1 نفرحك واني نحضر إليه وين جابو سبوتيرو leo katika hafla hapa na hafla hii muhimu walikoni kwa watu wetu na kwa na maaskari hasa askari na hasa kwa askari na kwa na kuodo maaskari au kwa kufahamisha kila mtu haki niyo askari kazi niyo mtu qadraki katika kwa askari katika Wamngerenza na chintu gani husuluwa maana muda askari kusimamisho amkozo swali weno haka gani nayo kasani mara wapi mtu tuna askari hanzaktia kunaha maana inaktaruye katika shida na uhakika wa zaktia kumuza askari kasana kusimamishizo kasana askari kwa kunbani kasana kuzo swali chaki na zagari cha kusimamishizo sasa kujiba na kuisha hakio na maana ino haki maana iko awena kujipa swali kuzoa na kumuza swali askari hiyo kasana kusimamishizo. Na ya pili maana kwa grupo ingine vile victim support ni mtu petro dibu maana yake mbani ingilila mizi ama bishila banyani ama dibu mapeto na kumwambia baada askari na kazi yao niyo na wao ni watu wawili tofauti lakini kufanya kazi mahala moja sio kwa kufanya soma askari wao lakini kusaida cha petro dibu victim maana ni mtu petro dibu kumsaida sahihi ndio maana dibu petro na kwa watu community ya wao waingiliane kwa nao kuza maswali kiwa kazi fanywa askari fanyeni kazi au jifanya kazi yao na haki yao niyo hiyo ndio koleji kushukuru hapa.
Okay, kushukuru Bakari ndoa isa watu wengi waamini watakurangalo katika Barawa Channel 1 na kwa kumezani message leo darsi nyingi tibareto hapa shpete elmu nyingi shpeto tarafa maaskari kusimamisha mbe isa mikazalero sti askari kusimamisha nao yamekodha wanambeme tahadira mzuba tahadira mnekeza kamera tambe maana jawabu nyingi tibareto hapa akadiri khamba zimiza kamera polisi akadiri khamba jawabu kwamba hizo jisasi petro hapa leo message ya asish petro naye Abakari nayo na kwa komezani watu wetu amini ka darsi ya asiri leo petro na ako chinao raja kala mara pili kwa asi chinakupata darsi kama hiyo.
Alhamdulillah hii ni programa ya Marakanda shifanyizo na fursa ya Brava Channel 1 kwa ile na programa za sitafanywa maaskari sio programa hizi nyingi kinenda kuona wanaamini wingi kwa maaskari kufanya maaskari kazi na itakuwa training nyingi itakuwa nao na programa hizo nitafanya katika TV channel Barawa 1 kuwaona kuiwisha wanaamini na kuwaona kuya inshallah na programa hii sasa kwa maaskari au kuwaona kuya programa hizi kwa zina kinenda sote kwa siku moja khodoa na kasatan kwa asi wanaamini kwa katika Wamngerenza kiwa maana haki yao niyo sasa ni jabu nyingi itakuwa na wake na wabli wanakuwa katika problema yuko tada askari ingine au fanzile mnape maana watu wengi hapo walikoza maswali yao chisha wene ni sawa hata kujiba na askari chwa khilila mauzo swali maneno haki kwa swali yako kujiba na kadra haki kwa kujiba na pili dibu ya nyingi ya upotroni watu wetu ambao askari shikati ibiga sahiha biga na muhimu sio kwa biga sahiha kasani wewe biga sahiha maana na khira askari jawabu hadiro maana kwa ziko lakini ujiza biga sahiha tendo mahakamani temu askari biga sahiha kwa hizi ni zaanzi sio za hadiro na hiyo ni muhimu tro kwa si ai chintu askari bana ai mtu ba hasatan tuzoa biga sahiha rakhia andisho kwa sababu biga sahiha kasani dibu nyingi wenu katika community tuko na watu bishetu sahiha na bila biga ni hiyo yanishana po hachisi na hiyo ni muhimu tro ai chintu message yake kana niyo ai chintu cha askari bacho ai mtu chukuza biga sahiha kwa biga sahiha no hakiwe kiza maana kesho tubiga sahiha hata kuzoa ikhirile maana mdango kusiana kwa dali mi fulani khirile jabu izni mifanyizo ama khirile jabu ziko tena mahakamani tunayakhudha basi na shinzila kile hiyo chawasi mshana askariwa chawe ni askariwa kwa wecho jamaa kumwezesha potee kwa wale kiza na inshallah taala tutafanya programu hizi nyingi na inshallah taala tutafanya programu kwa habibi na khudha maaskari kufanya interview directly kwa askari khudha na taamini inshallah taala.
Okay, hii program hii nakukala nakutosha kwa hata kina kila mwezi ambao kila baada ya wiki mbili maramo
programu hii mbele chanzize na dewawe ya moyo wakati nidhiki lakini shkodero kwa sisi tafanya inshallah taala tutakujaribu basi kwa sisi kina contribute kao badala ukichelasi bana shitakana kila hafa tutafanya na tutafanya programu tutafanya inshallah shitakana kwa wana kadra kuya ila tafanya advertisement katika TV bana Brava Channel 1 kwa tafanya advertisement siku fulani jina wala fulani askari wako kwa wana khudana tuamini na sawa na askari waliko ni askari waliko zamani hizo somisha watu wao askari usomisha jamaa tafa askari na maana wako watu kama oya na hakika tunamni sabato Somali ni haba na tuamini kwa wile tatu so wingi wako so kontra wako lakini sio kwa vitu vingi kwa au amona ya jabizo
inshallah shukran jazakallahu khairan ka kilma zawish pero isa Brava Channel 1 programa hii tumalize hapa inshallah nitakuona leo masku live katika Brava Channel 1 inshallah wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.